Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Countryside Podcast. It's the last in the current series. And John, you've very summary theme with the birds and the bees, so to speak.
And we're talking literally about the birds and the bees. I don't know whether you've noticed, and I think probably you have, Simon, the number of small birds, particularly swallows, that are about this time of the year.
Yes, circling the countryside, and a nice sight in a way, because, you know, they've been sitting outside our window and, and flying round, and I think, open the door, they'll be in. So,
And would you believe so? I was absolutely delighted about 10 days ago now to see 3 lapwings in one of our fields at Bolawillian, which was it was a lovely, gratifying sight.
Yeah, there used to be loads out at our land at Ballygarrigan. There was the curlew and the lapwings and all when we were young, but a rare sight now.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a rare sight, Simon. It was that call, maybe on a misty night, a calm, misty night, dusk, and hearing that evocative call of the peewit, as we call them, or the lapwings. Yeah. So it was good to see them back.
Well, it was good to see the Isle of Man Queenie Festival back as well. I went down to Port St Mary to have a look around and spoke to some of the people down there, because it's something I suppose that's only really taken off maybe 10 years or so, with people having them and them introduced more onto the menus in restaurants and cafes around the Isle of Man, isn't it, John? And people know a little bit more about them now.
Well, it takes a while, time, because they are new. I love queenies.
Are you a garlic man?
No, not really, not so much. I can deal with it, but I wouldn't ask for it.
No, but that's very interesting and very well supported as well, that. And also bumped into Jerry Chalk, who is involved in the seed trade and the cereal trade for many, many years, well, all his life, really. And he gave me some Fabia beans, which we'll find more about in the programme, but a couple of Isle of Man farmers and growers are having a go at growing them, and they're getting exported as far as Egypt now. So it's very encouraging that people are looking for new areas to go to.
Well, I think they always have been, Simon, because once upon a time it was said in the Isle of Man could never ever grow bread making wheat. And yet a handful of farmers, particularly in your particular part of the island, got together and really did work at this, and now we are self-sufficient in milling wheat, which is a tremendous achievement for agriculture, and a very comforting fact if you talk about food strategy and food security. So it's very, very good.
Yeah. Could we be self-sufficient in honey?
We could, Simon. I'm sure we could. I think we nearly are self-sufficient now, because if anybody heard us talking to the beekeepers at the Royal Manx Show, they would hear them saying, there are a lot of new people actually interested in beekeeping now, and every chance it'll take root, so to speak, and they'll become beekeepers too. But it's a lovely, lovely subject and fits so well into the Manx countryside.
So, again, sit back and enjoy the Countryside programme in full.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
I don't know whether anybody else has noticed or not, but certainly on our farm at Ballylease, we've noticed a proliferation of small birds, particularly swallows. I went to talk to Duncan Bridges to see what it's all about.
We're at that point in the year when the young families, the fledglings, are all getting moving. They're on the wing. The young birds that have been previously tucked away, hidden on the nest and being fed, they've fledged, but they're still sitting out and being fed by the parent birds in many cases. So often you'll get some species, they'll have a second brood, and they may have a family group. One pair of birds, one pair of swallows may have 6 or 8 youngsters following them around at this time of the year. So all of a sudden they're out and they're active, but the youngsters are often still dependent on the parents for feeding. So it becomes much more visible to us. It's a great time of year because you see the product of the spring's nesting and hatching and all the work that's gone in by those birds.
What we notice is we've been gathering sheep, gathering lambs for market, and what we notice is above the flock of sheep, I'm not exaggerating, there are hundreds of swallows.
It's not that common, but it is quite a well-known sort of phenomena that when you get congregations of sheep or other livestock together and you get the accumulation of the dung from them, coupled with nice warm days, which we've had a few of those, which makes a nice change. With that temperature, of course, you get the flies coming in. and it's the flies that they're after. And also with the warmth, that means that the flies have been hatching off from where they've been laying, and they've had eggs and larval stages out there which have come through to pupa and they've developed. So you're getting that lovely summer combination of plenty of food, good temperature, lots of birds on the wing at the same time looking for that food. And if you've got, as you say, a flock of sheep in one spot and it's warmed up and there's plenty of food source there, the whole food web is there for the birds to come in and make the most of.
The swallows, the fledglings, just barely on the wing. It's mid-August. It'll not be very long before they'll be gathering on the wires, and they've got a massive journey ahead of them.
They have.
How do they manage that?
It's one of these little miracles of nature. You see them now that, some of the organisations across, they're fitting data tags, satellite tags to these birds so they can track their passage. And when you see how quickly some of them make that run down to South Africa, travelling, 5,000 miles, and they're doing it in only a few days, feeding on the wing, flying, almost sleeping on the wing sometimes. And they're not doing it across the land always. They're going across the Bay of Biscay. They're going down from the Ivory Coast and straight down to the southern African Horn area. So they're doing big distances over open water. And those are young birds that are doing it. They may only be 4 or 5
But they're only a
months.
few grams themselves. Where do they accumulate the reserve?
And that's critical to them because they need to build up that energy level. They need to build up the fat level in the muscles, and they need to get the whole body up to a condition where they can survive that journey, because it is long and it's arduous. But by jingo, they do it. And they come back each year.
And do you have a sense of awe at what these animals and creatures can achieve? Is it still a wonder?
It is. Every time you learn of a new sort of, a new species habit, what they do, where they go, how they feed, and you just have to sort of imagine yourself in their situation. If you are a species which has to migrate, something like the Manx shearwater, they're breeding now. The fledglings are sitting outside the burrows on the calf as we speak, and in just a few months' time, they'll be travelling off to South America. So they're going to be doing a good 6,000-7,000 mile journey. How do they know where they're going? I can't imagine trying to work that out.
And which swallow sitting on the wire says, right, let's go?
Yes, who makes the decision? You'd think it would be the oldest and the wisest, but that may not be the case.
Duncan Bridges, as well informed as ever, with a lovely, lovely handle on wildlife and the Wildlife Trust in which he's involved, with some wonderful observations about what the birds are doing this time of year, Simon.
Yes, and I opened the patio door the other day and a swallow flew in, had a run round the living room and back out.
So have you noticed as well?
Yeah, there's lots of them. But just before our house was getting built, the swallows used to nest in it. And when it was getting built at the time, they were nesting in it then, and they come back every year. So I've got to be careful when I open the shed and things. They're just looking at me and say, come on then, let us back in.
We were here first.
Yeah, so it is incredible that they can fly around the world and come back and find the same
this
place,
is what Duncan was saying.
isn't it?
You heard Duncan saying, they're actually storing up now the reserves that they'll need for this flight of migration.
Yeah, we think we're clever sometimes, don't we?
Oh.
Well, both agricultural shows are done and dusted for another year, but one event that's particularly grown in popularity is the Isle of Man Queenie Festival in Port St Mary. I popped along to taste some of the food that's been prepared on the day and spoke to some of the people that were there. Well, James Scale from Switch On Events, you seem to be heavily involved in the 2015 Isle of Man Queenie Festival.
Yeah, we are a bit more this year than in previous years. We've always been involved since the outset, but this year we've actually took over the running of the festival.
You sort of know what people are expecting, or is it a good thing sometimes to throw in a few new things that, I've not seen this before?
We always want to try and put something new into it, but I think when something's working, when it's not broken, don't try and fix it too much. But we've got all the regular favourites. But yeah, this year we've got a few new things, and we've actually got about 15 more stall holders than in previous years. So there is more for people to see this year, and more for people to do, and more to buy, and more to eat. And
the other thing is, it's the perfect setting, isn't it, where it is here, and you've got the perfect weather today.
Really happy about that. We've had a couple of years where it has been raining and people still do turn up. A lot of it is within marquees, rain or shine. There's something to do and places to keep dry, really. So, but no, today, absolutely glorious sunshine. Yeah, just a great day all round.
Well, Kim Holland from the Manx Model Boat Club, fantastic setup. It's something I wouldn't imagine you can just turn up and 5 minutes later you go and...
No, we've got a pool now, inflatable pool, which we got from China, which is 8 by 10 metres. That requires just over half a metre of water in it. So if we have to pay by the metered rate, it's about £30 to fill it. We've got a 10 by 12 metre marquee that goes alongside it, which we can house a display of model boats, keep people dry. We can shelter the young skippers as well while they're sailing their boats on the water, and keeps everybody happy.
It's tricky enough when people don't realise who've never had a go at driving a boat, steering a boat before, how tricky they are to manoeuvre, because they're not that quick to respond, or you've got to be one step ahead.
Oh yeah, but they're exactly like a real boat. You've got to have one hand on the engine and you've got to have one hand on the tiller at all times. You take your eye off what's going on and the boat's away from it. But it's just like the real thing, and you find the younger ones get on with it far easier because they play with their Xboxes and computer toys, and it's the adults that have because they try and think about it too much, and if you try and understand the science of it without just going ahead and giving it a go, you can sometimes lose it.
Michelle Hayward from Discover Diving.
Now you've got a little setup here that the kids are all having a go with the oxygen bottle and the proper scuba gear and the goggles on. It seems to be that they've shown a fair bit of interest.
Yeah, the dunk tank's always popular actually. Any kid loves to stick their head in water, and if you can give them a mask and a scuba set so they can breathe under the water, they'd be in there for hours if we'd let them.
Is this something that the adults let the kids have a go, but are they showing a bit of interest in it as well, wondering what it would be like?
We've got quite a few adults that we'll pick up over the weekend who've dived somewhere tropical and have never considered diving in the Isle of Man, whereas some of the best diving in the British Isles is around here, and so they'll talk to us about that. And then for the kids, before they're 12, we don't teach them how to dive, but we'll teach them how to snorkel, and so we can get them out in the sea around here, exploring some of the same places that the divers would go to.
Is it the weather that puts people off around here?
The sea's a bit colder, you need a bit more thermal protection, and it all gets a bit complicated the more kit you have, so yeah, it can be a bit off-putting, but a lot of people learn when they're off on holiday and somebody offers them a chance to learn in 2 or 3 days, and they need a few more lessons to be able to dive over here, really.
Yeah, and what's so special about the Manx waters?
You've got really, really tidal waters, so that means even the sort of scenic sites have got lots of life on them that absolutely encrusted the rocks with anemones and hydroids and all sorts of cool and groovy stuff. And you've got the big charismatic things, so we've got seals all year round as well, and divers just love seeing seals in the water.
So what's your name?
Calvin.
You've had a go at the diving tank here. Was it all right?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Is it strange having your head underwater for so long?
Yeah.
Would you like to have a go out in the big sea one day?
Yeah, I really would like to.
Your name?
I'm Sam.
And you've had a go as well at the diving tank?
Yes,
Is
I
it
have.
good?
Yeah, it was really good. Because it was really weird because I've never done that before. Because I'm from London, so I don't exactly do that. But it was fun. It was cold and but it was really enjoyable.
And also we're talking to
Morgan.
Yeah, and how was it for you?
It was great.
Yeah, you got your shirt off round here on the quay, and was it hard to breathe or
No.
okay?
I'm not really used to breathing through my mouth a lot though.
Yeah.
But I'd love to do it out anywhere, really.
What about the big basking sharks? Would they bother you?
Probably not. Probably the jellyfish will though.
All right. Well, Chris Franklin, thank you for that demonstration of cooking here in the marquee. You've got a special role as well because all eyes are on you because it's your job, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I'm chef lecturer of the Isle of Man College at the moment, and yeah, it's good to get people involved with cooking.
I suppose that a lot of the sauces and things that queenies are in are quite simple in a way, but people are like you said, they're a bit scared of maybe getting poisoned or something. This thing that comes out.
They are. It's the whole thing of shellfish, and people have a bit of a perception of undercooked shellfish can make you ill. It can if it's not fresh, but we live on an island which is surrounded by queenies and shellfish. It's really, really nice to have it on your doorstep.
Do you find that people are coming now and asking more about seafood dishes and wanting to get involved in them more?
Yeah, well, these two demonstrations that I've done today, they've generated a real lot of interest. I've had lots of questions, been lots of keen people wanting to really know, what things they can do with shellfish. I mean, I had one lady, she says, I didn't know you could do more than one dish with queenies. So, she's learned something today, and it's really good.
Well, another fine day at the Isle of Man Queenie Festival there, and people enjoying it, and again tasting the different varieties of shellfishes and different fish that are there on the day, and finding out a little bit more how to cook them, John, which I think is important, because a lot of foods nowadays, people won't buy them because they simply don't know how to prepare them or
Well,
cook
that's
them.
absolutely right, Simon, because I don't know, I'm just a farmer, so I don't know a lot about the fishing trade, but I see queenies taking the place of the heron in Manx waters. Now, it's just as popular now from Manx shores. Yeah, I'm not surprised that people
No bones.
a little bit. That's right. But they are a mysterious sort of thing, aren't they? You would wonder how to cook them. I wouldn't know, but I love eating them.
Do you?
Oh, I do. I love queenies. Yeah, Queenie Mornay is my favourite. You'll find in any restaurant.
I like them in the evening.
That'll do.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, we're getting well through the summer now and the autumn approaches, and we start to think about different harvests. One of the harvests, of course, is the honey harvest. So I went to talk to some of the beekeepers who are gathered at this new station they've got at Shinhara, that's just on the Peel Road, just outside of Peel, where they are endeavouring to breed queen bees for export to otherwise disease-affected countries.
Well, it's our federation teaching apiary and hopefully bring young beekeepers or new beekeepers on into basic beekeeping for starters. And we're breeding queens here.
Why are you breeding queens on the Isle of Man now?
As you're well aware of, I hope that we are isolated now as far as importation of bees. A lot of people are seeking the bees we have in the Isle of Man because we're free of the varroa mite. We're also free of the viruses associated with it, and also foul brood.
Now, you've brought a guest demonstrator
Most
over.
definitely. Michael Badger, MBE, hails from Yorkshire now, and he's a prominent beekeeper within the BBK Federation, the British Beekeepers Association.
The word at the Royal Manx Show last week was that the island is enjoying a recruitment to its beekeeper fraternity. Is that your experience?
Well, there is, because people are conscious about the planet and worried about bees being decimated by this, that and the other. Unfortunately, I think it's got overhyped by journalists because science overcomes everything, and it has. We will have to live with varroa. New beekeepers come into it. They will say that's part of the luggage that you have with beekeeping, whereas a lot of my contemporaries, as soon as varroa became a nuisance, he said, I don't want this at my time of life.
Is it still a traditional craft, or is it actually developing?
The thing is, there's lots of people who get a hobby horse, like having these box-type hives and top-bar hives. And what they forget is, it's the beekeeper that's concerned about what the bees live in. The bees will live in anywhere. When I was a boy, I had them in flower pots, I had them in cardboard boxes and everything. It's us who seem to be concerned about what they live in. They don't, as you know, where they'll stop in a chimney top or a wall or anything.
So you're heading down now to this apiary at Shinhara, built specially here, and I must say, and I remember it, with planning permission. Everything is absolutely correct. It's quite a wonderful development, because it's a lovely thing to have in the countryside, isn't it?
Oh yes, yeah. The biggest problem with beekeepers is they don't understand that bees are pollinators and they get hung up about honey, and they should be telling the public we're pollinators. And the honey is a secondary thing, but obviously we do keep it for the honey, but we keep that to ourselves, if you see what I mean. But to plug it, we're the pollinators, and also tell the public if they get bumblebees in their bird boxes to think they're doing their best for the environment and don't want to get rid of them.
Now, you mentioned honey, which is the end product of it all, in spite of the pollinator. Is the demand for honey growing in this?
Oh, yes, it is, yes. But what I say to people as well who take up beekeeping and they get thinking, oh, I'll sell my honey. The problem is that you need to remember that it's seasonal. From 1 year we have a good season, we can go 2 years sometimes with a bad season. And I was always told, just remember, stored honey is like money in the bank. So don't use it all. Put some on one side and, keep it for a rainy day, as you might say. Problem is, you see, that demand always exceeds supply because our weather is so variable.
Now here at Shinhara, we're looking up on the slopes of Slewallion, and I know on the top a lot of heather on the top. Is that something that the bees go to get nowadays?
Well, yes, they will do, yes. But you see what? The problem about heather beekeeping is it's a different art. My father said, and God bless him, he died 15 years ago, he said to me, it's up to you to make sure that the new up-and-coming beekeepers don't lose the knowledge that I've been handed down to me about heather. And it is a different form of beekeeping because after the summer solstice, within a week, we've lost 5 minutes of the day. And then a week later, it's 10 minutes. And the bees recognise it's getting dark, and that's their nature's way of telling them that now you've got to start thinking about the winter. So they stop breeding. Well, when you want to breed bees on the heather, it's a different climate and everything. You've got to have the colony as though it was in the spring. So it's a new form of technique, and all this expertise will be lost unless people are told about it.
It's just a lovely concept to think that the heather-clad hills can actually yield honey if the bees are either put up there or if they fly up there. Indeed, they can fly up there, can't they?
They fly up there, and what they do, they come back loaded and just glide down. Fly down, but they don't want them flying up, so you put the bees at the bottom and let them fly down. Yeah.
Always interesting to talk to the beekeepers. Something I can't do, Simon. I wish I could, but I don't have the temperament. But I do love the idea of bees in the countryside and the harvest that we can gather from them.
There's a lot of people showing interest in it, but whether they're actually going to go with it or keep doing it is another thing.
They will, Simon, because at the show last week, we were talking to some of the beekeepers there, and they'll tell you that there are a lot of different people now interested in keeping bees, a whole resurgence. And would you believe, they said, that's something to do with the popularity we're getting from different forms of media.
Yeah, we're hoping that we're going to get a couple of beehives at our place at Derby, so to get them going.
You're a beekeeper?
And hopefully we'll be.
Oh, well done.
There's a bit of interest in it. The wife went to a couple of courses to find out more about it.
Oh, the wife is going to be the beekeeper?
Yeah, I think so. We'll move on swiftly. Lastly on this week's programme, well, Isle of Man farmers are always on the look out for diversity into different areas that they can use their agricultural knowledge and their land for in this particular day, and are being encouraged so as well. Well, I met a man who thrust a packet of beans in my hand at the Royal Show, and it was Jerry Chalk, who has dealt in cereals and seeds for many, many years, and he told me more about them.
Yeah, they're Victor Fabia spring beans grown on the Isle of Man. We have exported some which have been sent down to Wisbeach, and then they've been exported to Egypt where they actually eat them. And they're about 27% protein. The vegetarians like them. We've got a couple of people on the island selling them. The idea is that you soak them overnight and then gently stew them. Let them cool down, mash them up. You can put them in curries or in soups or casseroles. I've made them into veggie burgers. And the Egyptians, they had cooked them and let them smash them up, let them cool down, and then they put lemon juice on and coriander leaves on the top. And they particularly like eating them for breakfast.
Are they hard or are they pernickety about what sort of soils they like?
Yeah, I think you grow them anywhere. They just don't like sandy soil because they grow better on probably medium to heavy land. They don't need any nitrogen. They produce their own nitrogen, nitrogenous nodules. And unless you've got a low P&K index, no phosphate or potash required. You would need to spray them obviously against weeds and brown rust, which is a fungicide which attacks the leaves. And when they're in flower, the Berkeley beetle, which lays its eggs in the flower, and then the bugs inside the bean, and when the beans mature, it eats a hole out of it. And the Egyptians, you don't want a lot of holes in the beans.
You've been involved in the seed and cereal business a long time. I mean, how did you come across these?
I've known about them spring beans for a long time. So they've not been a particularly popular crop in England in particular, but a lot of farmers have been using them as a source of protein for their cattle, because soya, it all has to be imported. Fish meal doesn't suit the job very well, so they use those. But the farmers, they don't soak them and cook them, but they grind them up and add them as a part of the ration. They're handy in a rotation, and with everybody's under pressure in the farming world at the moment, the commodities are very poor prices, and anything they want to buy doesn't seem to come down. So, it's another alternative crop for them. It spreads the harvest out, a spring crop. We buy oilseed rape as well, grown on the island, and send that over to Liverpool. We also have dried peas, combined peas, and those a variety called crackerjack, and they get exported to Yorkshire for myconising. So it's quite a broad spectrum of things.
But there's ever growing market, isn't there, for like gluten-free, lot of vegetarians and vegans about, and these sort of things is another sort of, I don't know, a broader thing for them to try, isn't it?
Very much indeed, very much so, yeah. And if we can sort of establish another market, one of the problems we have is we have to pay an awful lot of money to get things shipped across to the other island, but we can't do very much about that. But we just, broaden the spectrum.
Would there be a case if word gets round that you could maybe export them to other parts of the country or the world?
That's up to really Paddy. He's the fellow that exports them, and it certainly sends them, as we mentioned, to Egypt. He also sends them to Sudan. I'm actually going to Abu Dhabi in November, and I'm going to take some with me and see if there's any interest in the United Arab Emirates out there. We just have to see it. It's another crop.
Jerry Chalk there telling me about the Victor Fabia beans. I was a bit sceptical at first when I got a hold of them, but to find out more about them and find out that farmers in the Isle of Man are willing to have a go at growing them, John, and they're getting exported to Egypt.
Yeah, it's true, Simon. We don't change easily, but we've come a long way from spuds and turnips, haven't we?
Yeah.
To specialised beans now that we can export off a very healthy island to other parts of the world.
Yes, and I don't know. It's I think that's what we all heard about the problems in various areas of farming, isn't it? And it's encouraging that people aren't just throwing the towel in; they're actually looking for something different that there might be a market for.
Oh, indeed, and there are markets out there, Simon. Finding them's just the job, and the man that you're speaking to is the very person that we need to help us.
Well, that's it for this series of Countryside. We're going to be back in September with more. Don't forget, if you've got anything for our programme that you'd like featured on it, you can get in touch with John Kennick or myself, Simon Clark, here at Manx Radio. Leave a message for us. And also, you can send an email to countryside@manxradio.com, and we'll get back in touch with you and hopefully got something interesting to fill our programme with in the next series.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, there, queenies, beans, honey and birds, all in Countryside. It's if you told anyone what we're going to talk about some weeks, I don't think they'd ever believe you, John, do they?
Well, they're all connected with the outdoor life in the Isle of Man, Simon, which is essentially countryside.
It is. Well, that's it for this series of Countryside. We're going to be back in September. So we'll talk to you then. From me, Simon Clark.
And from me, John Kennick.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.